Most of you watched a documentary on Netflix titled Ancient Apocalypse by Graham Hancock. He stated his theory was that Atlantis was real and that there were Ice Age civilizations all around the world. His case was dismissed because all he had was circumstantial evidence. And normally that would be the end of it, except for one tiny detail. He was right, and I'm going to show you how. The year was 2014. We had purchased a property in North Texas, 5 acres. The house was saying, put a vineyard on me. So I planted a vineyard in the front 3 acres, and that was rough. Our daughter was in high school at the time, and she had a baby. So during the day, I would take care of the baby, and there's really not much you can do with a baby while you're feeding it, except watch YouTube. I watched documentaries on Atlantis and ancient history, and got really interested in it. But every time I watched a documentary, it just came up empty. They really didn't find anything. They had no real physical evidence, no walls, no canals. So I started looking. I said, you know, if it's real, how hard could it be? So it took me about a year, 2015, I was noticing things underwater using Google Earth. Some of the things were anomalies that I just couldn't figure out what they were. They kind of looked like underwater castles. It's really cool. Finally, I was listening to a podcast with Andrew Collins, and he said that Atlantis, the island, was surrounded by a giant wall. And that's when the light went kaboom. That's what I was looking at. I was looking at an island underwater with a giant wall around it. So I continued to look, and I found a lot more. Not only did this island have a giant wall around it, there was an opening in the southern end. It opened up into a small bay, or what would have been a small bay because it's underwater. Traveling north a couple of miles, I saw 2 by 3 miles anomaly, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it might have been a fish hatchery, but then when I measured it, it's like, there's no fish hatchery that big. But in 2016, the second anomaly became visible in Google Earth. And it turns out that these were temple complexes, each 2 miles by 3 miles. And each had 2 temples in them, and they look identical. Also, Plato stated that there was a bridge going north to the mountains. Well, what do you know? There's a bridge going north to the mountains. And those mountains today, the tops are visible. There's a bridge there underwater. It spans 14 miles. The 2 ends are there, but the middle's missing. I don't know why. The ends are a mile wide at each end. Now, in the mountains, Plato stated also that there were aqueducts and clean villages, small clean villages. Well, what do you know? We have found, well, I didn't find them. It has been found that there are aqueducts above and below ground in these mountains. In Plato's dialogues, he also mentioned a great plain. This plain supported the entire empire of Atlantis. Now, the plain that I found was not on the island itself. It was in a different location, but here's what it had. It had canals, giant canals, that ran through the mountains out onto the plain. And those mountains today, the tops are still visible, but the canal is underwater. Now there's one difference, and it's a big difference. Plato stated that the canal that went through the mountains out onto the plain was 300 feet wide, but his description was that it was bigger than what humans could have built. Now the description fits what I found. 300 feet wide does not. The measurement I found on this canal was 50 stadia wide. Yes, 5.75 miles wide. The walls are 45-degree angle in. Not only that, I have found a dam that runs the width of the canal. And that dam's about a mile high from top to bottom. Not only did we find the island of Atlantis, we have found other islands. They look like underwater castles, and one that's really cool, it's over by the Cayman Islands. It's in the shape of a shark. So it has the giant wall around it in the shape of a shark. Randall Carlson had said that he thought Atlantis might be in the Azores. So I took a look in the Azores. I didn't find any walls or anything like that, but what I did find was 3 pyramids. Now the year is 2017. What a year. So I figure out that the city is at the top of those 2 temple complexes on the island. So I flew down there. And I thought I could just jump on a boat, go out there, jump in the water and say, yeah, there it is. Well, it wasn't that easy. Couldn't get a boat. The temples were 100 miles off the coast. So I had to return back to the States. In the meantime, I found a charter boat that was able to take me out there. Then my health started deteriorating, and I collapsed in the vineyard. I had heart attacks and had trouble breathing. And then COVID hit. Perfect timing. And my wife lost her job. She found a new one in Wyoming. And so she flew off to Wyoming, and there I was with this big old house with a vineyard. And it was just a house. It was just a vineyard. And it wasn't a reason to be separated for. So I sold it and moved to Wyoming with her. If you don't know, Wyoming's a little higher in altitude than Texas. I got there and I had trouble breathing, and the doctors told me I needed surgery on my heart immediately. Well, during COVID, they were scared to put a date on it. So I thought, you know what? I wrote a little book, put my research in it. I said, you know, if something happens to me, it happens. So we flew down during COVID, and my wife joined me, but she did have a stipulation. She said she'd go, but we had to go to an all-inclusive while we're there. All-inclusive resort, so we did. And then on November 29th, 2021, we left Port Royal. We chartered a 50-foot catamaran named Loose Cannon. We had about 8 crew members on board. Kind of overdid it, but almost all of them have never been out this far away from the island. So we went out there, and it took longer to get there than anyone figured. It took us 10 hours. So we left at 3 in the morning, and then we got out there, and we went to Temple Complex 2. I didn't know what else to call it, even, odd, or whatever. We find that the water depth is a lot deeper than what the charts showed. It was 95 feet deep. I set my drone in the water, and before you know it, it comes in contact with a huge barracuda. After that, all of us jumped back and go, whoa! And the feed died. So the drone died. So we start pulling it back. The captain says that the water depth is 95 feet and that there were 2 structures visible above the sand. One was 61 feet from the surface, the other was 54 feet from the surface. Now, what this means is that the rest is under the subsidence of the island, just as Plato described it. Now, here's what I learned from that trip. The coordinates that I put in the book, I was off about 100 yards. But if you're going to go down there, don't worry about it, because there's nothing else sticking out of the sand. You're going to see it. Take divers with cameras this time. Now we go to the return trip home, or back to the island. It starts getting dark. The waves pick up. A storm sets in. Julie's in the cabin down below, not feeling good. It's pitch black. Just like that movie, Atlantis or Aquaman, where the monsters came out of the ocean in the pitch black rain. All of a sudden, bam, we hit something. We thought we hit something. Captain shuts down the engines. And here we are, everyone's looking over the side of the boat. Everyone's looking for seaweed or driftwood and anything that we could have hit, but there was nothing. It was just pitch black. After a while of troubleshooting, they found that one of the engines just conked out. So we head back to the island on one engine running at 6 knots. We didn't get back to the island until 5:30 the next day. Our flight leaves at 8:30. And during COVID, if you don't get there early, you weren't going. So we barely made it in time to get a return flight home. So we get back to the States, and the doctors finally give me a date to do my surgery, March 2022. And so we do that, heart surgery. After that, I was recovering, and they said I need another heart surgery. Then in June of that same year, I started teaching at the college up in Casper College, about this very subject, Atlantis. Discover Atlantis was the name of the class. And then I had asked my congressman at the time, Liz Cheney, for assistance with getting hold of NOAA. And I think it was one of the last things that she did for her constituents because of all the stuff that was going on. And NOAA got back with me and they said that they would do the survey of the temples, but they have to be asked by the host nation, or in this case, island. So now after the surgery, we moved back to Texas, and again, I asked my local congressman to help with contacting NOAA. This time, oh my goodness, NOAA was extremely excited about what I found. They looked at satellite images. They were like, gung-ho, gung-ho. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Well, I guess word came down, don't do that, don't do that. I finally was able to communicate with the government of the island, let's say. And I briefed them on what I found. I gave them pictures, I gave them depth of water, the location, all of that. And so yes, now they are aware. With the difference in the two canals, with the measurements, does that mean that the measurement that Plato gave that the city, the outer ring, was 50 stadia distance? Does it mean anything? Did they get the 50 stadia mixed up? I don't know. So when looking for the city, start at the entrance to the island and just follow it and see where it leads you. The island of Atlantis is known today as the Pedro Bank, just south of Jamaica. It is surrounded by a giant wall. There is an opening in the southern end. Going north, we find two temple complexes. Going across the bridge north to the mountains, we have found aqueducts, and above and below ground, and one thing that I think is the top of an obelisk sticking out of the ground. One of these aqueducts is even featured in a property for sale. Buy this property and get the ancient ruins that go with it. The Great Plain is the Caribbean basin or the Venezuelan basin. The large canal that goes through the mountains starts around the Virgin Islands and goes out onto the basin. You may not be able to see that anymore. U.S. government or Google has decided to cover that up, but the pictures are in the book. Part of it was known as the Muertos Trough. They've also covered that up. Even Wikipedia has deleted that page. There's so much more, and I'll be going back again because I believe I know where the location is of the ancient temple where they had the crystal. It's 98 feet in diameter, but it's also been covered up. But it's just off the Morant Key. Now, the mountains to the north are known as Jamaica. Yeah, go visit. Now, finding Atlantis gives us more than just Atlantis. There was a previous civilization during the Ice Age that spanned the globe. And how do you find it? It's the walls, the giant walls that surround not only their cities, but their islands and their coastal areas that they lived. You see, there was someone else that was living during the Ice Age. And these were called the megafauna, or huge animals that would eat humans. So yeah, they're going to build walls to protect themselves. I have found these walls all over the planet, most of them underwater. One place I found it on the top of land, or on land, is Antarctica. I have found it off the coast of China, off the coast of Russia. But those two locations have now been blurred. They are all over. And this explains the flatness of things like seamounts. People keep wondering, why are they so flat? Well, the reason they're flat is because they had giant walls surrounding them. And the subsidence of the island would make it flat, and the walls would hold it in. And this is why everything looks like a sunken castle. So join me on my next adventure when we go to that area, Jamaica. This time we're going to be looking for the building that is 98 feet in diameter. Could be the building that holds the crystal. Now that technology is kind of scary because it's been locked up for 10,000 years or so in the darkness. If you put a flashlight on it, what's going to happen? I don't know. So if you're a scientist, an archaeologist, a marine archaeologist, or if you're a university that has a marine archaeology program and you want to know locations for things like this, the Antediluvian Signature, Atlantis. It has all the pictures and the coordinates you need. Contact me through my contact information that's somewhere around here, and let's go on this next adventure together. Thank you.